Okay, so I'm just going to do a few short tutorials so you can see for yourself how to actually get to this point on what you were trying to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn these all back off. And we'll start you. Okay. Okay, so we'll start you from scratch. So this is what you're going to start with. It's going to be a blank canvas. You're going to start at 5x7. The pixel is going resolution should be 300. You want to stick with 300 if you're going to be printing it, because if you send it to be printed as a photo printers print at 300 dpi. So whatever you make here is going to relate to whatever actually gets printed. Okay, so you start with this. It'll start with just with this locked background copy. You can either unlock it or just make a copy. I usually just make a copy in case I want to change this, and I just bring it back. It's just easy. So make a copy, and then all you should have is this layer and this layer. Go ahead and turn this layer off, leave this layer on, and first thing that you want to do is bring in the objects that you're working with. So first thing I brought in was this picture. So this picture, I'm getting just the size, rough idea of what the size of the pictures and where you want them laid out, and that's all I'm using this picture for. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in these pictures. You can do that by just copying and pasting them in. So you can do Control A, Control C to copy, and then Control V to paste. And of course you can see that these pictures are much larger than the size that we're actually working with. So make sure you have your Move tool selected. Make sure you have the Show Transform controls selected, and then just come right down here and hold the Shift key and drag this back in. Holding the Shift key tells Photoshop that you want to move both sides in equal proportion so it doesn't get out of skew. So just move this down just to get a rough picture size there. Just press OK. So right now all you're going to move in is this one picture and this one picture here. And let me see, I got this other picture. Okay, so I already moved this in. So we did the same thing. We copied and pasted this in, and then we resized this picture. And all I'm looking to do for this is get the approximate size for the bottom pictures and approximate size for here, what my gap will be, things like that. Okay, so after we go in and we actually adjust this so it's actually more to the size we want, because we know that we want to have a border here. We don't want this to be a little bit smaller, so I kind of want to match this in a little bit. So we'll go ahead and just resize. And since I already have all these in here, I'm going to use what I already have. Okay, so we'll just delete that out. I'm going to turn on bottom left. There we go. Turn on my picture. Okay, so now I resized, and this is actually down here. That's the size I want. So now what I want to do is I want to actually bring these next two images in at the exact same size this is, so I don't have to worry about moving or making this the same size or using guidelines or anything like that to try and make it the same size. So I already know that they're exactly where I want them to be. So basically the easiest way to do that is you need to figure out the size of this picture. So hold the Control key and select the layer. It's going to highlight that object. Do Control C to copy and Control N to start a new layer. Now you're saying the preset is from the clipboard, and you can see this is 619 by 413. This is the exact pixel size that this image is, and this is what you want to write down. So go ahead and write this down. It's going to be 619 by 413, and you don't need to create the layer, just press cancel. And what you're going to do is you're going to come to the next two pictures that you haven't brought in yet. So it won't be this, it'll be one of the other ones. Go to image, image size, make sure you have constrained proportions on, change this number to 619. It's automatically going to change it to 413. It's going to change the picture size for that, and you're going to do Control A to highlight and Control C to copy, and then you're going to paste. And when you paste this, it is already the exact size as your first picture. And that's beneficial to you because now the picture that you paste here and the one you resize and paste here, now you know that all three of these pictures are the exact same size, so it's going to be equally proportional. So it'll look good. And okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna move this. Oops. Okay, so just move that back and back to the layers. Okay, so from this point, you can turn off your background image that we use as a copy, and we'll have these other two images. They won't be placed here yet, but we'll have them. They'll be placed down here or something. So what you need to do now is we need to figure out where to put these guides and what the borders will be. So we need to figure out what we want this outside border to be and what we want these inside borders to be here. So to do that, we need to take the three pictures that we have. We know that these are all 619 pixels wide. So do 619 times 3. That gives you about 1850. You know your image is 2100 pixels long. So do 2100 minus 1850 gives you approximately 250. So then you know that you want this border here to be thicker than this inner border. And we need to figure out to distribute this. So we have 250, so then we say 75 pixels here, 75 pixels here. That leaves us with 100 pixels. So that's 50 here and 50 here. Now we have these two inner borders that are 1/3 the width of this outer border, and all these borders are proportional to each other, so it'll look good. Okay, so after we figure that out, then what we're going to have is we can start putting these guides in. Okay, so go ahead and turn off all the layers, and we'll start putting these guides in. So now go ahead and select your navigation. Start at this top corner here, and you're going to be putting a guide at 75, because we're going to say the outside border is 75 pixels. So drag a guide from here to 75 and drag a guide from the top to 75. Come down to the bottom corner and do the same thing. You're going to drag a guide from 75 pixels from the bottom. So drag a guide to 1425 because our pixel is 1500 high, and drag a guide over to 2025 because our picture is 2100 pixels long. What that'll leave you with is just this outside guides for the border. Okay, so now we need to put these guides in, and we need it to be proportional, and we need it to match what our pictures are. So the rest of it is mathematic all the way down. So this guide is at 75, so you do 75 plus 619, and that's where this guide goes. Then you do plus 50 pixels, that's where this guide goes. Then plus 619, and that's where this guide goes. Then plus 50 pixels in this guide, and this guide is already here. So now that would have laid us out for our picture placement. Now what we can do is we will move. You can go ahead and turn your pictures back on. We'll move the pictures, and they'll snap into place on those guides. And the guides will work out really good for the borders, but we want our border to actually overlap these pictures a little bit. So we'll go back through, and we're going to move this guide back 2 pixels, this guide forward 2 pixels, and this guide back 2 pixels, and this guide forward 2 pixels, and that'll set us up perfectly for the border that we're going to create here, and it'll be the mask. Alright, so the next thing is, the last thing for the guides is we need to add this guide, and this guide. And that's pretty easy, so we'll just turn the picture back on and pretty much just go in and see what our average gap is. It's about 200 pixels. It's actually a little bit less, so we're making it 200 just so this blue banner will match in ratio aspect to the other borders that we made. So let's just drag this down just so it matches the picture 2 pixels above it, and then just go 200 more pixels and it'll be just over this, and then it'll match. Okay, so what you should have now is all these guides and these pictures set up pretty much just like this. Okay. Okay, so then that'll be the end of this first video, and this will get you to this point. And then in the next video, I'll talk about adjusting this picture and attaching the borders and doing the shading.